This is the Lacy Shamrock that we did last week, and I thought this week, since Susan was showing all the hard stuff in Popup Card Studio, that I'd show some easy stuff for those of us who are beginners and would still like to start learning to use Popup Card Studio. So you can do something in Popup Card Studio that you've already created into a file. You can make it into a pop-up pretty easily. So you can look at last week's webinar to see how I made this shamrock. But today we're going to go into Popup Card Studio and make this into a pop-up card like this. Irish Blessings. So to begin with, I'm in Make the Cut, and I'm just going to copy this. You can go to Edit, Copy, and then I'm going to go into Popup Card Studio where I opened up a 6x6 card. I don't recommend cutting this much smaller than 6x6 because of all the intricate details on that. But to get it into here, I'm going to take, first I'm going to type in the text using the position of 1 inch. When I right click and rotate, you'll see that this plane is 1 inch from the back wall. So the text that I'm going to add, the Irish Blessings, I'm going to put at the 1 inch plane. So we'll do that first. And to do that, I'm just going to click on the T, and I'm going to click on the board here, and I have Irish Blessings, and I'll click on Add. Now you'll see that this is quite a bit wider than my card here, so I do need to make it to resize it. So I think I'll keep the height there. Could make it even taller, but I'll leave it there for now, and I'll make this a width of 5.5. Since my card is 6 inches, I'll leave 1/4 of an inch on each side. And before I do anything else, I need to crop off the top and the bottoms of these letters so that they're all straight across. So I'm going to click on this cropping tool on the left toolbar, and with the snapping at its lowest, I've got this on exclusive rectangle. That means that whatever I select will be removed, and I'm just going to make it very, very slight crop just so I get the curves off, and then I'll do the same on the bottom. Get a very slight crop on the bottom, make sure I get absolutely straight lines, and that's how we make it stick to the card. So now that I have it cropped, I'm going to center it on the card by clicking on this vertical center side, and then I'm going to align it to the bottom plane, click down like that, and we'll go to File, Print Preview to make sure that we have dashed lines at the bottom. You see at the bottom of the text there are some red lines here, so that means that those are cropped well. The next thing I want to do is change the color to gray, because then I can see the next step a little better. And I'm going to zoom in by rolling on my scroll wheel, and it really is helpful to have a scroll wheel for using this software. So I'm going to zoom in close, press the space bar to switch planes so that I can grab the tops of those letters. And I'm going to click on the pen tool and click on Auto Quad. Now my goal here is to create a plane, or just a piece of paper straight across. So I can't really get it to do what I need it to do unless I put it at 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. Now when I just hover my cursor over the yellow line, I see dashed blue lines and I see dashed red lines. So I'm going to left click, and then I'm going to come over here to the right, and I'm looking again for dashed red lines and dashed blue lines, and you need to just move around till you see both as dashed. I can see the red is dashed, but I can't see the blue very well as dashed. I see it there. And I'll zoom in a little bit more. So there's a break on that S. I'm going to get it to the far right. There it is. It's dashed now. So I left click. So now I have a new platform, or you call a plane, on which to put my shamrock. So now what I'm going to do is change, hit my space bar so that my plane is again upright, and I'm on the you see the back plane here on edit side, and I'm going to change that to a 1/2 inch. So let's change that to 0.5 and enter. And I'll zoom, oops, I need to keep that at 0.5. And I'm going to click on edit. I have to have my arrow selected to edit, and edit and paste, because remember I put my shamrock in the clipboard, I copied it and make the cut, and I'm going to paste it here. Now let me zoom out here so we can see where we are. That shamrock is a little too big, so you see the size over here is almost 6 inches, and that would fill the card. So I'm going to lock the aspect ratio a little bit, and I'll take the size down. I think I'll just use the corner a bit. My goal is to have it above that plane, and I'm going to crop it first by clicking on that cropping tool, and again going to the snapping of the smallest size, so I can just trim that bottom just a little bit. And I could even trim it more if I wanted to. I could trim it all the way here to give it a little more sturdy base. Could just trim it straight across like that if I wanted to stick to the bottom here. And then center it by clicking on the vertical center and then clicking on the down here. And my goal is to make it short enough to be under this top white line so it doesn't come out of the card when it's closed. And you can open and close the card here. And I see that it's not hanging out the top, so I'm okay there. I might even make it a little bigger so that I can make it as big as possible and still not be sticking out the top. So I'm going to center it again and make sure it's on the bottom plane. I can go to print preview just to make sure that I have dashed lines automatically created for me in the print preview. That way I know that it's going to work before I do any further steps on here. So you see the red lines at the bottom of the leaves, bottom of the stem. So that's good. That's what I want. So I'm going to close that preview. And the only thing that's left to do is to create the tabs that go from the top of the shamrock to the back of the card. To do that, I'm going to click on the space. Well, first, before I do that, I've got to create some straight edges. Now I could create tabs here on the sides, but I think probably what I'll do is crop across the right here, maybe not right at the exact top, but across these two so that they're cropped equally. And then I think I'll crop this center space so I'll have a place for it to adhere to the card. And it looks like I missed part of it. And now I'll draw the tabs. I could draw some more here if I wanted to be a little more secure, but when I made mine this afternoon it was fine just cropping here. So now what I'm going to do is click on the pen tool, the draw tool, and I'm going to change the snapping back to 1/8 of an inch. I think 1/4 of an inch works as well. And again, I'm going to zoom in close so I can see. And I'm going to click on the space bar, hold the control key until I see the yellow lines here. And now that I have my snapping on, I can easily get the red dots and blue dots, left click and left click there, and then I'll do the same here, left click and left click. Now I'm going to hold the control and go down until I see the next yellow line, do left click and a left click when I see the blue dashes and the red dashes. And if you can't see them at the top, you can look at the bottom of the screen to see the blue dashes and left click. And I want to make sure that this tab is, that the Shamrock is on the top layer. So I'm going to click on the D key to select the Shamrock and click on this Z order move to top to make sure that the Shamrock is higher than the tab, so that when I zoom out I will see the Shamrock instead of the tab. And if any of the are overlapping of the leaves, they would cut out of the tab. So you can turn it around, right click and drag. You can see it rotated here. So we'll go to File and Print Preview and make sure everything is attached well. And this is always important to check as you go, because you don't want to get it all made and then find out that, oh, things aren't attached right. So when I'm in Print Preview, I'm looking for the folds at the top of each tab, the bottom of each tab, where it connects to the base, the fold lines. So they all look good. So I'll click on Close there. Now you can, if you want, you can save it, but you can check in rendering options. Right now I have render cut lines as solid because I like to use my engraving tool to do my scoring, but you could use dash lines if you wanted to cut them. You could use short dashed or long dashed, and you can render your mountain lines solid or dashed, also your valley lines solid or dashed, your hinges, if you had any hinges, solid or dashed. And so this is where you would change any of your render options. And when you're happy with your options, you can go to File, Export, and Project Rendering. And now this is where you would choose to render it either to a machine or as an SVG. I usually do mine as if I'm going to my Zing, I would do machine, and I would select the Zing here, and I could begin cutting. If I want to do it on any other cutter, or if I wanted to share my file, I would go to Export, Project Rendering as SVG file. And it would help if I would name my file first and save it as Popup Card Studio. So I'm going to save it first as Irish Blessings Popup, and add my initials. That reminds me later that this was the one I drew. And then when I go to export Project Rendering as SVG, it automatically assigns the same name to it, which is handy. And then if I want to, after I make my card, if I want to make that Shamrock a different color as it is in here, or if I want to make the letters different colors, it's very helpful to also export the shapes. So I can export project shapes as SVG, and then I can bring those shapes into Make the Cut or any other software that I would be using to do the cutting of the extra colors.